over visas for skilled immigrant workers. Trump is apparently now expressing some support for the H-1B visa program after he had criticized it in the past. This comes after Trump allies Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy expressed their support for the program last week, arguing that high-skilled foreign workers are essential for the U.S. tech industry. That had many in MAGA world furious, claiming the pair were contradicting Trump's immigration policies and his America First philosophy for their own personal benefit. And joining us now to talk about this is MSNBC contributor and author of the book, How the Right Lost Its Mind, Charlie Sykes, and contributing columnist for The Hill, Matt Lewis. Gentlemen, thank you both for being here. And if people weren't paying attention over the holidays last couple of days, this story exploded on the right and is going to have real ramifications going forward. And Matt, in your latest opinion piece, you asked the question, can Trump hold his coalition together? You write in part this: today, it's MAGA that finds itself as the big tent coalition full of internal contradictions. The question is, how long can it last? Holding this coalition together will be one of Trump's greatest challenges in his second term. It's a happy dilemma, but also a test of political skill. Cracks are already showing. You go on to write, a catch-22 of politics is the fact that once you start governing and making decisions, you're almost guaranteed to alienate some of the people who put you in office in the first place. It requires finesse to manage, and finesse isn't exactly Trump's strong suit. But will the coalition's contradictions ultimately tear it apart? Trump's ability to navigate these challenges will define his second presidency. By this time next year, we'll likely know the answer. And Matt, talk to us more about, first of all, this schism on immigration that happened here. Fill viewers in as to what exactly is going on and what you think it does mean for this fragile Trump coalition.
Right. Well, so there is this schism, and you've got sort of billionaire tech bros like Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy who want to be able to have highly skilled immigrants, obviously, who are going to help work for them or work in the tech industry. And they argue that that would be good for America, for innovation, for us to stay competitive around the world. But then you have folks who have been tilling these fields for a long time, people like Steve Bannon, Stephen Miller, Laura Loomer, who say, look, hey, last time we elected Donald Trump, we were promised he was going to do something on immigration. He did some stuff, but we had all of these establishment Republicans in our way, these kind of normie, Rex Tillerson, Reince Priebus, those types around, stopping us from really having a radical agenda, doing mass deportations, building the wall, all of that stuff. This time around, they think they're finally going to get to the promised land. And here comes Elon Musk, right? This billionaire owns X, who obviously has Donald Trump's ear. But I think this is a microcosm of a larger problem that Donald Trump has, which is that there is really no coherent MAGA philosophy. And there are a ton of contradictions. Like, is this the party of McDonald's, or is this the party of crunchy RFK yoga moms? Is this the party of values voters, or is this the party of Pete Hegseth and Matt Gaetz and Donald Trump, right? So there's a lot of these problems. We've had this before. FDR had a big coalition full of a lot of people who you couldn't have put them in a room together, but he had a big coalition, right? Donald Trump has 1 or 2 votes in the House to do anything. And so this is going to take a lot of skill. I don't necessarily think it's the end of the Trump presidency, but man, is it going to be a challenge.
I mean, Steve Bannon called Elon Musk a child on Elon Musk's own social media platform over the weekend. That's where things are right now on the MAGA right. And Charlie, in your latest post on Substack, you wrote in part this: it seems pretentious and overblown to call it a MAGA civil war, but the oligarch versus nativist furor that broke out over the last week over immigration, race, and visas was real, and it was spectacular. The angry skirmish exposed a fundamental divide over a core issue for MAGA, and it's likely a preview of coming attractions. But the fight was also a reminder that irony is good and truly dead. after spending hundreds of millions of dollars supporting a candidate who lied about immigrants eating cats and dogs, the neo-MAGA tech bros seem genuinely shocked to discover that the fear and loathing extends to their immigrants. And Charlie, talk to us more about this. There's such a sense of anger and outrage and betrayal, let's say, on the far right, particularly some very loud, influential voices on the far right who couldn't believe that Ramaswamy and Musk were taking this stance. Ramaswamy kicking this off with a lengthy post on Christmas Day. Trump tried to stay out of it for a couple days, it seems, and then he gave an interview to the New York Post in which he offered at least some soft support to where Musk is hurting his base. What do you make of what's to come next?
Well, I mean, look, on one level, there's a power struggle going on inside of MAGA, but on another level, this is a substantive dispute, which is inevitable in a populist movement that is now dominated by billionaire tech bro elitists, and that's going to show up in a lot of issues. Look, a lot of the MAGA base has been motivated by the fear of immigrants and resentment against immigrants, foreigners, taking jobs that they think that Americans should have. And here comes Elon Musk and saying that, yeah, there are not enough Americans. Americans are, and he endorsed the word retarded, are just not smart enough or not skilled enough to take all these high-tech jobs. We need to import foreigners like me. Well, clearly, that's going to cause tension in MAGA. This is a campaign that was based upon fear of foreigners coming in and taking your communities, your jobs, your women, all of those things. And so these latecomers, Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, really have very different value systems. I think they have different agendas than the MAGA base. So this is going to play out over a long period of time. Now, right now, and to no one's surprise, Donald Trump is siding with, the billionaire tech bros, but the base is not going to change its position on immigration. And sometimes, ideas have consequences, but so does racial demagoguery. And I think what was really extraordinary was watching how shocked Elon Musk and some of his buddies were to find out that many of their new MAGA allies are, in fact, pretty racist when it comes to Indian immigrants. And it seemed like they were shocked, like, wait, we were supposed to be afraid of those immigrants. Now you're coming for our immigrants? We didn't mean that.
Yeah, and this also is far from the only tension point on the right now, because this Friday, House lawmakers will vote on whether or not to re-elect Mike Johnson as House Speaker. Following last week's government funding bill, which passed the House with more Democratic than Republican votes, Speaker Johnson's candidacy is very much in peril. Already, Johnson has publicly lost the support of one Republican congressman, with multiple others saying they are unsure if they will back the Speaker. And if, as expected, all 215 Democrats oppose him, Johnson can only afford one more Republican defection. So, Matt Lewis, let's get your thoughts on this. Trump has also seemed pretty content to let Johnson twist in the wind. We know he was unhappy with the CR that eventually was passed because it didn't address the debt ceiling. He talked about that again on Truth Social last night. Though Trump has not publicly called for Johnson to be ousted, there are all kinds of reporting. I've heard this, too, from Mar-a-Lago, where he is deeply unhappy with the Speaker.
Yeah, well, get your popcorn ready. It's going to be crazy. Look, if I had to bet, I think Johnson probably survives this time. Remember last time, Matt Gaetz was really gunning for, Kevin McCarthy. So he had an agenda, a personal motive to take down McCarthy. I don't think that exists right now against the current speaker, Mike Johnson. But he is in a very vulnerable position. Nobody wants the job. I don't think anybody else can get the votes. That's probably why Johnson maybe survives this one. But I will say this, as opposed to the visa debate and the visa schism we were just talking about, I think the real problem Republicans are going to have does have to do with Mike Johnson. And it's going to have to do next year when it comes time to fund the government or raise the debt ceiling. Because with the H-1B visa controversy, you could possibly elide that, right? You could tell Elon what he wants to hear. Meanwhile, Stephen Miller could limit the number of visas, or you could make some changes on the margins and avoid directly confronting that issue, at least for a while. When it comes to whether or not you raise the debt limit, that is a very public thing. And so I don't think there's any way to avoid that controversy, which pits, again, another civil war, a different one. Republicans, fiscal conservatives like Representative Chip Roy, who want to cut the debt, want to cut the deficit, want to rein in the budget, and they want to keep the debt limit there as a reason to revisit this every once in a while, versus Donald Trump, who would like to see the debt limit just go away because he is the king of debt. So that, I think it is maybe not this week, but this is a coming attraction. Stay tuned for more on Mike Johnson.
Charlie, isn't this really going to come down to sooner or later, and I predict sooner, a battle between the true believers on the MAGA side and those that are doing transactional politics using the MAGA base, including Trump himself and Elon Musk and others? Because I think and I've seen this happen on the left, I think that they misunderstand or mistaken that some of the people that are out there with them really believe in this stuff against foreigners, yes, against people of color and all. And they're kind of just doing whatever they think will get them to wherever they want to achieve. Isn't this going to come down to that? And it could come to a head as early with Mike Johnson in the speaker's race. Certainly it's going to come down to when we deal with H1B.
Well, yeah, it's going to come down to a lot of different issues. In fact, I think you're going to see this on issues of international trade, on the tariffs, on the spending cuts. You have a lot of you describe them as transactional. You know, many of the members of the business community and Wall Street are on board because they want certain regulatory changes, they want certain tax cuts, and they're telling themselves, well, Trump doesn't actually mean it, say, with the tariffs. Okay, so Ramaswamy and Musk are going to propose all kinds of draconian spending cuts, but, that's not really going to go anywhere. Well, at some point, you are going to have a conflict because the true believers know that they have a limited amount of time to get their agenda through. It's probably going to become relevant at some point that Donald Trump is a lame duck. And so the power struggle is going to be very, very real. And for the true believers, they think that they may have a 2-year window to get everything done. The transactionalists, I think, are going to be surprised to find out that they bought into something that is somewhat different than perhaps they expected.